All right. Today we are here with Sqee Jvanny, who's one of the bigger swappers that I've seen in dead man mode today. Wanted to ask him a few questions to see if we could learn how much these swappers are making. Looks like rates are around, if you're selling, 1 to 2. And if you're buying, I've seen various, but maybe around 1 to 1.5 on average. Today, he has swapped at least 200 mil plus. Quite a big amount. It doesn't seem like there's still a lot of money floating around, so that does look like a pretty large number to me. Next, I want to see if we could get a total number here. So just today, they've swapped at least 200 million. Curious what the total number, if they were to guess, and how many days they've been doing it, so we can get an estimate for how much is a realistic amount to swap. In the end, I'm going to try to see if we can calculate a money-making per hour method to see how it compares to the traditional money-making methods in-game. So 800 mil in the past 4 to 5 days of swapping. Okay, so it looks like around 200 mil per day, pretty consistently. That's fair. They're saying that they're just using an alt and they're doing other things as well. So even though it does kind of take up time, it's not really taking away from anything else. So they could be anywhere from 8 hours to 16 hours. Okay, so it is quite a bit of time being spent, but it's kind of like merging and flipping where you're not actually actively doing it. So even though it is a big time chunk, you're still able to do other things if you're going to be out of the game anyway. All right, now I'm curious if they have swapped in other DMMs and if they kind of have experience with this. Three past DMMs. Okay, let's see. All right, I'm curious if they're able to put a dollar figure on how much they've made on past DMMs, and we're talking main game cash. Wow. Whoa, that is crazy. All right, so the first one they've made around 100 million. The second one, by far the most profitable, 2.5 to 3 billion profit. That is crazy, and that's main game cash. And this one looks like they're around 500 to 600 with still plenty of game to play. Now I'm going to ask if they work with a clan at all, because I feel like at least in the very beginning of the DMM seasons, it's only clan swapping. People probably don't want to trust individuals, but it seems like Sqee Jvanny has success swapping solo, so it is possible, clearly, and there's a lot of money to be made. That is crazy. That number far exceeds what I was expecting to hear. Wow. I'm going to ask them if there's like a more profitable time or if it's consistently profitable. Wow, still taken back a bit. Because in the beginning of this interview, before I started, I was talking to Sqee Jvanny a little bit, and I wanted to ask if we could ask a few questions, and they mentioned that they really are not a big swapper. So for somebody who doesn't consider them a big swapper to make multiple billions of GP working solo is insane to me. Okay. That makes sense. So they actually stay away from the start of the season when prices are unstable, which makes sense. I mean, like at the start of this DMM, I was seeing an insane spread from the clan pricings. Like it was like, I think they were buying at 1 to 400 and selling at 1 to 800. So clearly a huge margin, but like, I don't know how many people are buying, swapping, and you could very easily end up with like too much GP on one game mode or the other, which could then come back to bite you. In a clan, they say it's guaranteed traffic. Gotcha. So I think he's talking about the rate there. So once the rate gets like 1 to 10, that's when you could reliably start swapping. That's probably when the rates kind of stabilize a bit and they're not changing like every minute, which I could imagine is very hard to keep up with if you're working solo. Surprisingly make a bit towards the end when rates are 1 to 3, 1 to 2, which is kind of where we're at right now. The rates are probably consistently steady. They might stay that same rate for the entire day, maybe even more. So you have more time between swaps, you know. If you do have a large amount of money on DMM, like you probably don't need to be as concerned about offloading it as quick as possible. And people are buying final gear. So there's people who still need the money towards the end, especially if they're actually competing in the DMM portion of it. And let me ask for any advice. They say to make sure you have income first, such as skilling and chins. Yeah, there's plenty of money to make made while skilling. You could also do it in addition to swapping, so that makes a lot of sense. Catching chins is very profitable and always will be very profitable. And then gauge market prices. Yeah, hanging out with the GE to understand their rates make a lot of sense. All right, gonna wrap it up there. All right, shout out Viximon. I've seen him trading all day. He seems pretty trustable. So if you do see him and you're interested in swapping, feel free to reach out to them.